Hipster basically represents you as a person and your community. And it's basically
You're
everything.
my community, Matt. Matt, you are my community.
No. Your community are rolled up jeans and overalls. Your community is farm to table all day long.
I love farm to table restaurants. You don't like farm to table restaurants?
You all your food is made in small batches. So small batch.
I don't know what that means.
Oh,
Matt.
you're a small.
Really
you're a small batch guy. It's okay.
Okay.
I mean, you
like large batch whiskey. You're a big fan of the large batch.
Well, I think when somebody makes a small batch whiskey, it was a test for the flavor or whatever, and it can be good. It just depends the company that makes the small batch. But companies that make the small batch usually make their bigger batches. Now, if you're a company that only makes
the small batches that I like are just the shitty small batches. The small batches that you approve of are the good small batches. Is that what we're saying?
No, I think there's a difference between companies that are created and market directly for their small batches and their close to earth stuff and like their natural ingredients and this and that you and your people in your hipster community tend to gravitate towards.
Do you thrive on being the bad guy from Revenge of the Nerds? Is that like what your life strives to be?
Booger or the frat?
No, the frat. Like one of those frat guys?
You think I'm one of those frat guys?
I think it seems like you're trying to be right now.
I mean, I wouldn't call you a nerd.
I mean, you called me a hipster. It might as well be calling me a nerd.
No, I think it's different. But if there was a Revenge of the Nerds,
it's other than.
If there was a movie made about hipsters where they were the lower class citizens and they were ridiculed, yes, I would be the one ridiculing.
Okay. Yeah, I think this whole thing came because I had a birthday dinner in my 20s at that restaurant in Hamden that one time.
No. It honestly just came from your other group of friends that we have just made up stories about because we know nothing about them. So in our minds, these people that you never allowed us to associate with, who were your closest, who you hung out with even more than us for the most part. Yeah.
When you say didn't allow you to associate with, do you think there were like I consciously was like, oh, you guys want to hang out with my other friends? No. I'm going to separate it.
Yes.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
I mean, I think at the start that's how it was, and then you just got used to having two separate groups of friends. And
people have different groups of friends. Not all groups of friends hang out together.
No, of course not. But when you leave and say, I'm going to go hang out with my other group of friends and don't invite anybody.
When did that ever happen?
It changes things. Well, it happens all the time. I mean, I know I was upset with you for years.
Welcome back to Monday Night Conversations.
I get to see your face.
I am one of your hosts, Scott Macklin. Thrilled to be here. And my counterpart and co-host on the other side of this Google Meet screen is one Matt Thompson. Hello, Matt.
Hi, and I don't appreciate that you're trying to peg our audience to view you as the bad guy. I mean, you as the good guy and me as the bad guy.
Well, Matt, if you're the one calling me out for just living life, then in the essence of good v evil, you are evil.
Yeah, but humor in itself is not evil.
No, humor in itself is not evil, but who said you were being funny?
Again, I'm doing this podcast because I think I'm funny, and I laugh at my own jokes. And that's really all that matters in this situation. So anything else is flat out shenanigans.
That's a really good point, and I appreciate that. But when you make up bold-faced lies about me, like I wear suspenders, then I have to push back on that.
I'm sorry. I know for a fact you don't wear suspenders. You promote people and break bread with people who wear suspenders.
I wore a bow tie once to my cousin's wedding.
Do you remember the party? I told you it was a fancy Great Gatsby party and everyone was wearing suits and you came in a suit?
Yeah.
That was so fun.
That's probably the best prank that's ever been put on me.
Thank you. It was well planned out too. It was well planned
Yeah.
out.
I was very embarrassed about that.
But you looked real good.
I was the only suit I had at the time.
Yeah, no one had suits. We were like 21. It was my 21st birthday party.
No, it was your wife's birthday.
Oh, maybe 25 or something.
Because why would you have a Great Gatsby party? But like Stacy, because she loves like frilly things. I could imagine that.
Yeah, I said she loved the Roaring 20s. Loved them. Huge fan of the Roaring 20s.
For anyone who doesn't know, and that's probably everyone listening right now, for Matt's wife's, I think it was her 25th birthday, he convinced me somehow that it was a Great Gatsby themed party and that everyone would be wearing suits and the girls would be wearing flapper dresses and I was like, oh shit, I don't have anything 20s. I guess I'll just wear a suit and like it'll be fine. Meanwhile, it was literally at her parents' house. Like it wasn't like I should have seen that coming a mile away, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure you got some of our mutual friends in on the joke.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I had to tell everybody because I knew if you were going to talk to, I knew exactly who you were going to talk to. So I had to clear it with them that if they brought up what you're going to wear, you got to say 1920s attire.
Yeah. I still hold certain grudges about that. And I know you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
What a spectacular show we have for you today. We are finally going to get to our NBA season preview, at least some of the stories we're looking forward to seeing unfold. We're also going to play a little game where we compare NBA players to 90s bands coming off of our hugely successful top 5 90s band conversation last week. Mm-hmm. And then we are going to do a speed round of NFL matchup look-aheads for this coming week, which is week 5 or 6 of the NFL.
I believe it's week 6.
Week 6 of the NFL, which I knew the whole time I was just testing Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to be tested sometimes, you know. I mean,
I got to keep you on your toes, bro.
You might think I'm a sports genius and you might think I'm this great person who's just, you know, you're jealous of as a human being and that you just think so amazing. But really, I could be tested every now and then.
And you need to be tested. As I need to be tested.
Yes.
So first story of the NFL season that we're looking ahead to is an obvious story. Can the Celtics repeat? And before you dive into this, because I know you have a lot of thoughts, a couple of factors. I think on paper they're the most talented team. They're getting everybody back. They're not losing anything. And on top of it, there is this chip on the shoulder of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum that the entire basketball media keeps talking about because Tatum didn't play in the Olympics and Jaylen Brown didn't get on the Olympic team. So that should fire them up hypothetically. Now, I have my thoughts about that, Matt, but I want you to dive in and then I will come off of you.
I don't even think it's even a comparison between them and any other team at this point. They are by far the best team in basketball. If they don't win the title, I think it would be a huge upset. Their starting 5 alone is about as perfect of a starting 5 when Porzingis is back, of course, as you'll ever see. I mean, the guard play, having 2 all-defensive team guards, Brown and Tatum as your wings, and then Porzingis, who's just – I mean, do people forget how unfair he is as a player? I mean,
Porzingis, when he came in the finals, granted it was like 2.5 games, he was so good and impactful right away, and it's as good as he's ever played, and it really like just those 2.5 games was like worth him being drafted number 4 by the Knicks. You know what I mean? Like that all like came to fruition. Is like, oh, okay, I see why they did that.
I just genuinely, other than Wemby, I mean, basically, I view Porzingis as almost a precursor to Wemby because people that size aren't that agile and they can't move that well, where Porzingis can literally run the court, shoot threes. Any team in the world would want him if it wasn't for his injury concerns and his injury history. I think you would probably be talking about a guy who's a borderline Hall of Famer. That's how talented I think he is.
He was the original unicorn, Matt. He was the unicorn that everyone started using that term for everybody who had a lot of size and shooting ability.
It's just, his first 5 years were really marred by injury, and that set him back. But
Yeah.
you put him on a team that has that kind of spacing and that kind of IQ and that kind of talent, that team is just so much better than everyone else. There's no one that's even close. I actually have a thought that the NBA, the parity in the NBA is more spread out than I've ever seen, other than the Celtics.
Besides the Celtics, you're
besides the
100%
Celtics,
right. Yeah. I also so the only other team, and I think we'll talk about them a little later because I do want to continue on the Celtics. The only other team that I think can compare talent-wise and depth-wise is the Thunder, but they haven't really won anything of significance. So you can't just consider them in the same league as the Celtics. And I think that the West is so top-heavy, and there are a lot of good teams at a similar level. The Thunder, in my opinion, being ahead of everybody else, that they're probably going to beat each other up, and the Thunder are less likely to come out of the West than the Celtics are to come out of the East, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I like the Thunder a lot. I just think that they're more of a team made for the regular season, maybe than the playoffs. And I only say that because you just don't have that many scoring options on the wing. And to me, in the playoffs, that's kind of where you live. You kind of live with iso ball. You have a lot of isolation in the playoffs. The game slows down a lot. And I just think that, Shai Gilgeous is phenomenal. But do they really have a second scoring option that can get them 30 in a night, can get them 40 in a night? Jalen Williams is close. He's very, very good. And he's somebody that could easily be one of the few best players on a championship team. But I just don't know if he's ready to be that 1A to Shai Gilgeous. I feel like they need that guy in between those two guys that can be that next step.
So I agree with you on Jalen Williams. And he's going to have to step up in the playoffs. I think his numbers took a significant dip in the playoffs. I think he averaged over 20 in the regular season and like 18 in the playoffs. But I also think that Chet is going to take a leap this year and possibly be like a most improved player candidate. He played, let's not forget, he's coming off a 1 year at Gonzaga. He played 82 games in the regular season last year. So, his level of stamina and his level of ability to play at his highest possible peak in the playoffs probably wasn't at his best last year, and he's going to understand that this year and train accordingly and coming back. And I think, if he's as good as I think he is, he will take a step up.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just how painfully skinny he was when he got drafted, and then getting injured right at the beginning of your training camp. And you're not able to really develop and gain the muscle. The only problem I have with Holmgren, and I think he's a really multifaceted, fantastic player with a huge upside. I just don't know where his offensive game ultimately ends up. I don't know if he's going to be a guy who averages 20-plus a game. I just don't know if that even ever happens because he's not a high-volume guy. His three-point shooting is fine. It's not great. So he's really the X factor for the team, if we're going to be honest. His trajectory upwards is really going to determine if they need to add that second piece or not. But they do have the one thing you got to keep in mind. I'm sorry, real quick. They do have all the draft picks still. They do have the ability to probably get any available player in the NBA. So that's what everyone has to remember when you think about the Thunder. This is not a fully formed team yet because they still have the possibility to get literally anybody that's disgruntled somewhere else.
That's a great point, is that they do have the most assets and the best assets in the league, more so than anyone else. So they can swing for the fences and trade for, a Kevin Durant type of player, or even a Booker if the Suns go on wholesale.
I'm a little bullish on the Suns myself, but yes, that is exactly what I'm saying in terms of what they'd be looking for.
Yeah, and I didn't mean this. I like the Suns just because I believe in Durant so much. But if it goes bad for them and Booker gets injured or Durant gets injured in the beginning of the season, and they start off like 10-25 or something. I mean, they're not just going to stand pat. My second point is that the Thunder brought in Hartenstein in order to take some of that pounding away from Chet, because Chet played center. He was a true center last year, and if he from all the reports he gained some muscle, but he's still a skinny guy. He's going to wear down, and the move to bring in Hartenstein, who's probably the best backup center in the league, and certainly a starting caliber center if they end up starting him, it was a very good move by the Thunder.
Hartenstein, to me, is arguably, and has been for a number of years now, one of the more underrated players in the league. His basketball IQ, his passing ability, his athleticism. He could be a starting center for 20 teams in the NBA. He's that good. This was not a small signing. This was a big signing for them. And last year, their biggest problem was no Chet on the court, no size. They had nothing behind him. Yep. So they're just set up for success, and they're definitely going to be one of the more watchable teams in the NBA this year.
Well, they also have so many good young players that we're not even talking about. I mean, from Aaron Wiggins to Cason Wallace to Isaiah Joe to Deng. I mean, Kenrich Williams. They have so many good young players who they're not even going to be able to keep, who they have to send down to the G League. They are so deep and so good that I do think that they're going to be at the top of the West and likely to come out. But again, the West is top heavy. You can't discount Jokic. You just can't do that when he's the best player in the league. Let's hope Jamal Murray plays better this year than he played last year, and certainly in the Olympics. I know you think he's washed.
I don't know if he's washed. I just saw a guy that there's something seriously wrong with him. Whether it's mental or physical, he needs to improve for that team to have a chance.
I still think that Minnesota is going to be in the mix.
We talked about it last week. I loved what Minnesota did. I loved the trade. I think that they're right there with OKC. Anthony Edwards is only going to get better and keep getting better. He's that good. When you have an alpha like that, all bets are off. They can win. They can win the championship with that guy. He's that good.
And honestly, Memphis, I think could take a big leap if Ja can just stay healthy and play 70+ games. I think they're going to be right in the mix. And my surprise team, I think. Not surprise team, but team that I think can be in the mix in terms of top 4 or 5 in the West is New Orleans, because they just have so many good, solid players. And if Zion, have you seen pictures of Zion, by the way? He looks incredibly in shape, slim, huge still. If he has that explosiveness and can play 70+ games, something like that, they have an incredible team around him, and a lot of scoring, a lot of defense.
They just don't have the minutes for everyone that they have is the problem.
Right. Well, they need a Brandon Ingram trade, and they just weren't able to do that this offseason.
They need a Brandon Ingram trade for financial reasons, but the reality is they need a Brandon Ingram. They need somebody like that. They need a wing that can score. They have Trey Murphy, who's a great shooter, but the only reason they want to trade Ingram is obviously because of his price, and they've got all these guys that they're going to need to pay. They added DeJounte Murray.
Right.
How are him and McCollum going to play together? Does this stunt the growth of Dyson Daniels? And Daniels was in the trade. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Daniels is gone.
It's an interesting roster. It's a little bit choppy for my liking because I guess I just don't understand how it's going to all fit yet. Point Zion might be the only ticket, but DeJounte Murray needs the ball in his hand, so I'm not really sure how they're going to play together. Other than that, though, talent-wise, they're right up there with anybody.
Yeah, I hear you. And really, they don't have a center, so they may have to play Zion at center. Daniel Tice is their only established center on the roster, and he's really – he's a backup center at this point, so I'm going to be really interested in what they're going to do. But,
who hangs up first? Who hangs up first? Brandon Ingram for Ayton.
Yeah, see, I don't think Portland can do that, because
I don't think Portland will do it either.
Portland has so many ball dominant players right now, and they just can't afford another ball dominant player who can't shoot threes. They have enough of those.
I'm really concerned about the future of Portland. I think Scoot might be a total bust.
Scoot has looked really good so far in the preseason, and all of
I
the
hope
out of training camp.
I hope, but
he looks good.
I'm just having Emmanuel Mudiay flashbacks. That's all I know.
Did you see Ayton, what he said about Scoot? There was this quote that he was like, he was always Baby Hulk, but now he's Hulk because he looks so much bigger and faster.
Oh, he's a physical freak. He's an athletic freak. His shot is borderline broken, though. I just don't know how you really function in today's NBA without a 3-point shot running the point. I guess you can. You don't really see it.
So, jumping off of what we were talking about with the Grizzlies, being I guess, sleeper in the West to be in that top 4 and contend for the Western Championship.
Mm-hmm.
The team in the East that, in my opinion, has to have that bounce back year in order to compete, I think, is the Bucks. And we're going to have to answer a lot of questions. Is Giannis still a top 3 player in the league? Is Damian Lillard still like an elite point guard or off the ball shooter in the league? Those are still questions. I know he had a horrible season last year, Matt, but I think that question is unanswered. It's not 100% a no. The whole Damian Lillard excuse is so weird because everyone from the Bucks organization is saying that Dame didn't practice at all. He didn't work out at all before last season because he knew he was going to get traded. Does that mean that you're not good anymore? Like, I don't understand. And he was going through a lot. He was getting a divorce in a new city for the first time in his professional career, away from his kids, et cetera, et cetera. But he just didn't look good, and he needs to come out of the gate like swinging this year if the Bucks are going to do anything substantial.
I think Lillard in general, the whole not working out thing because you're getting traded makes zero sense.
I agree.
It's not like he was waiting for a contract. His contract was in effect. He had his long-term max contract. He knew he was going to be playing basketball the next year. He just chose not to try to make himself better. And I'm not aware of many 34-year-olds that hit that kind of valley that he hit last year that then go back to where they were.
Yeah, that's the hard part. That's a great point because I agree with you. I don't know if I could ever think of a basketball player who has dipped, not because of injury, but just because of skill level, and then come back to be at their former heights. And, injury is one thing, but I just can't think of one.
I think Lillard was at his best with an extra facilitator in the court like McCollum. I think he was able to move around more. He was able to have a little attention off of him. I don't like the fit with the Bucks. I think it's an old team. There's not a lot of spacing. The spacing that they have is Brook Lopez, who is basically a walking corpse at this point. I think the team is. I think their window has passed. I do not think the Damian Lillard, Giannis team will ever really be in championship contention again. Now I hope Giannis finds some new running mates at some point, but for right now I don't see it with the Bucks. I understand where you're coming from. I just think with the Chris Middleton injury, the lack of a bench, and the lack of and just the general age of their roster and rotation, it's going to be hard for them.
Yeah, I don't understand why the Bucks, when everything broke down, just didn't go to a Dame Giannis pick and roll. To me, that's an unstoppable offensive play, and I think they were like bottom 3 in the league in terms of the top 2 scorers on a team playing pick and roll together. I would just beat that into the ground. Like if your regular offense is not working, just Giannis pick and roll every single time. How are you going to stop Giannis?
Because he can't shoot.
Right, but you can't stop him rolling to the basket. When he gets ahead of steam, there is still no one in the league who can step in front of him and stop him. His Euro step is incredible.
No, but you can slow him down by just standing in front of him, knowing that he's not going to pop. It's not like you have to play halfway. Yes, in many occasions, you're going to be able to hit a pick and roll where you're going to be able to dive to the basket and get Giannis the ball. His lack of 3-point shot, though, it cuts out half of the variable. I mean, it's part of it that would make it so much more dangerous.
But that's where Damian Lillard comes in. Is that Dame should be able to step back or drive to the hoop himself when people are too focused on Giannis or getting in Giannis's way.
But who else can you rely on besides those two guys? That's my question. What are you going to do for the 20 minutes a game that Lillard's not in, or the 25 minutes a game that Lillard's not in, and the 15 minutes a game that Giannis is not in? They do not have anything else that I would be able to rely on and feel comfortable about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Chris Middleton, I think he's coming off 2 foot surgeries. He got surgery on both feet this offseason. So I was always a Middleton hater until they won the championship because he showed up big time in their championship run. But I was there's no way he's the second best player on a team. He showed up. Yeah. He was the second best player on their team that year over Drew Holiday in that run. Now, that all being said, can he be the third best player on this championship team? He's a little old. He's a little injured. And I just don't know if
he's a big X factor. He's the X factor for them. Dame coming back and being Dame is one thing. But even Dame at full strength, Dame averaging 28, 29 a game with Giannis, I still don't know if they have enough around him. It's that shallow of a roster, and it's that old of a roster.
Matt, I think this is a huge prove-it year for Jokic. I really, really do. Is he still the best player in the league? This could be a legacy year for the Joker in Denver. If he doesn't carry that team to a top 4 seeding, which he wasn't that far off of last year, I really think people are going to start questioning whether he's like one of the top guys of the last 10 years.
That's insane. He's clearly the best player in the last 10 years. Clearly. It's not even close. His numbers are absurd. His winning percentage is absurd. Don't forget that before last year, halfway through the year, that's the best team in the West. It was still them. But that has kind of crumbled. Their entire infrastructure has crumbled because Michael Porter Jr. is just a bust. I don't know what anyone else wants to say about the guy. He's just not that good at basketball. As an NBA player, I'm sure he's a very good basketball player, obviously, but he's just not reliable. He's not consistent. And, that's the way I see it. And Aaron Gordon is more of a defensive guy. So if Jokic and Murray aren't on, that team struggles. They keep losing their auxiliary players. They lost Bruce Brown. They're relying on Christian Braun now, who's
letting KCP walk was probably not a great look. He was one of the key pieces of their championship team 2 years ago, and definitely last year as well. I didn't mean to imply, and I think I did, that Jokic isn't the best player in basketball, because I do think he is.
Yeah.
But is this year a legacy building or breaking year for him as a team player, as a championship type of player?
I think this is the year that the Nuggets are going to have to reboot. I think that they're going to have to figure out this team moving forward, because I do not think what their current incarnation of the Nuggets is built for future success. I think Murray, you can wait and see if he comes back strong. I think Porter should be traded. And I think they need to clear some space, get a couple of really good guys in there. If they can somehow turn Michael Porter Jr. into 2 good NBA starters somehow, salary-wise, they would be such a better team.
I don't even know if Jokic is going to be there in terms of if they reboot. Like, how much longer is he going to be playing for? He just doesn't seem that interested in it.
That's true. So they're kind of stuck. They're not in a great situation right now. They won their championship, so they're never going to be upset. And he's won MVPs, and he's the best player in the world. But it's not an easy situation there, because there's a lot of question marks on the roster, on the books, that they have to account for pretty soon.
It's also crazy to me that the Cronkies, who own the Nuggets, and they own the Avalanche, and they own the Rams, and they own another team, another couple teams too. They own like 5 teams. They own
a Premier League team too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why they refuse to spend money on the Nuggets. Like, they just like Bruce Bowen, I can understand, right? That's a business decision, but not signing KCP, he was key. He's one of the best 3-and-D guys on the perimeter in the league, and you just let him go.
So I think it's all about the second apron. You've got 4 guys making close to max money on that team. You got Murray, Jokic, Gordon, and Porter basically maxing out your cap. You can really only surround them with mid-level exception, with essentially one mid-level exception, one taxpayer. And then a few minimums. So they literally could not have re-signed either one of them.
But that's my point, though. They didn't hit the second apron yet. So they could have re-signed KCP if they were just going to increase their luxury tax. And
I think signing KCP would have put them over the apron, because he wanted close to $20 million a year, which is a huge amount when you've got 4 max players. You can't have 4 close to max players and then have just this other guy over here making $20 million. It's just that would be 5 guys making $20 million. There's not enough money there.
The huge mistake was signing Porter Jr. to his max contract, because he didn't play as a max player. He showed signs of being that, and he just hasn't developed out into anything but a come off of a pin down and shoot a three type of guy.
Yeah, his handle's never really improved. His defense has never really improved. His shooting, which he was, there was much ballyhoo, as you would like to say, about.
I do.
Is I think a little exaggerated. I don't think he's a world-class shooter by any means. I think he's fine. I don't think that, but he's not like the dead-eye knock. He's not Klay Thompson out there by any means. So if he's not going to hit, if somebody like that's not going to hit 40% of your shots or 38, 39, 40% of your threes, his use really is questionable at that point.
I'm just going to take this out of the oven real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'm going to keep doing the podcast. Scott's now taking out of the oven his Swiss buttercream, I think, or the Swiss buttercream's in the fridge. He took a lot of time, and no, he did not make Swiss buttercream for any other reason other than hating America. That's right, everybody. Scott hates America and doesn't like American buttercream. He's not a patriot, and in the comments section, certainly let us know how you feel about that. He drapes himself in other countries' flags. It'll just be something that we all have to figure out one day. And I think he's going to come back now. And you, as the audience, just pretend that everything's okay. But we all know that he doesn't like America.
Coming off of our conversation of our favorite 90s bands.
Do you know I was talking the whole time?
Yeah, I heard you in my ear, dude.
Oh, damn.
I completely ignored you.
Oh, I thought that was going to be something.
No, it's going to be cut out.
That's going to be cut? Calling you an anti-American?
Yes.
Why? I thought it was funny.
It was, but that's not podcast. It was funny to me. That's not a podcast.
But the podcast, you went to go, you stopped the podcast, went to go to the oven, and then I talked about what was going on. That is a podcast. What are you talking about?
All right, I'll keep it in.
You don't have to, but I think it's funny.
I'm not going to.
Okay. Why? Because you don't want everyone to know that you hate America?
No, because you don't stop in the middle of a podcast and go get something out of the oven and then.
But you did.
Right, because I had to.
Right, and then I had to talk because I had an opinion about it that you hate America.
That's fair. Can I move on?
Yes.
Coming off of the talk of our top 5 90s bands and influential 90s bands from the episode last week, Matt and I put together a very, very fun segment where we are going to compare NBA players to 90s bands. I have 6 of them, Matt, and I cannot wait to do this. I've been biting at the chomping at the bit. What is it called? Chomping at the bit to do this.
All right. Well, you chomp first then. Go ahead.
My first one, I think, is the best one. LeBron is Aerosmith.
Why?
He's the old head in the league who's been great for so long, and he's not really of this era, but he is still cranking out hits or all-NBA caliber seasons.
I like that. I would view LeBron more like in sync, like they wish they were the Backstreet Boys, like LeBron wishes he was Michael Jordan. I think they're always going to be number 2 in people's hearts and minds, like LeBron is number 2. So that would be my comparison, but I do like yours because anytime Aerosmith gets their due credit, I respect it.
I do want to tell you, and I saved this for the pod specifically, I listened to Get a Grip a couple times yesterday. That record is really good.
It's really good.
It hits
it's
so
a killer.
hard.
It's a killer.
You go from Shut Up and Dance down to the end of that album. It's like 7 straight bangers.
Yeah.
There's one or two skips in the top half, but the rest of that is incredible.
Yeah, but in a row, it's amazing, crying, living on the edge, just songs that were I don't know about the rest of the world, but in my life, those were that. It blew my mind when I heard those songs for the first time. The visuals and the lyrics and Joe Perry's guitar, awesome stuff.
It was incredible. All right, you go with your first one.
So I think I'm going to start off with a softball, we'll call it. Mm-hmm. Dennis Rodman has only one comparison, and that's Marilyn Manson.
Love that. I love that comparison.
They were both counterculture. They were both the biggest and most famous right in the mid-'90s at the exact same time. Fingernails painted,
dangerous. They were both danger.
Both dangerous. But I think what we've learned over the years is mental illness sucks
Yeah, it's not great.
for both of them.
I'm gonna go for my second. Oh, also, Dennis Rodman didn't remove a rib. I know.
I don't think he did either. I don't think that's a real thing.
Real in my world, baby.
There was always the Marilyn Manson jokes, like in the same vein as you'd hear the Chuck Norris things, like Chuck Norris power jokes. You'd hear the Marilyn Manson things for weird sexual crap, like he removed a rib or he did something to his bandmates on the stage that didn't happen. Stuff like that. He was his persona was way bigger than his music. The music was it was fine. He made a nice remake of an Annie Lennox song. That was about it.
Yeah, Sweet Dreams was good. Other than that, I could care less.
Yeah, zero cares.
My second one is Nikola Jokic is Oasis. Hear me out. They're both obviously great, but not really sure they want to be on stage / on the NBA court.
I like that thought process.
And they both know how good they are, that like doing what they're doing is almost boring to them.
So are you saying the Nuggets championship season was essentially their What's the Story Morning Glory?
Yes. Yeah, exactly right.
I like it too because I got to be honest, I don't think there should be much after it, just like Oasis.
Right. What's your second one?
My second one is Clyde Drexler reminds me of Fish.
Okay. Now, I didn't understand this one when you sent it to me, so please explain.
Very calm, very cool, not very famous, but also loved by the people that want to love him. People of Portland view him as a god, just like Fish fans view them as the greatest band in the world. Yep. And mostly it's just about the persona, about how like calm and relaxed. It reminds me of like people at a Fish concert.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't have gone to Drexler is Fish as my first comp, but this is your list, and I appreciate what you do.
What would you go with? What would you say for Drexler then?
I think Drexler would be something like the Gin Blossoms.
Gin Blossoms. So you're saying, is it a jealousy thing or is it just a Gin Blossoms thing?
No, it's a Gin Blossoms. Like even keel, easy-going, a couple of hits, but never like the top tier guy.
Never reached that top level. Like like even with and that was my thought too with the Fish comparison. They weren't quite the Grateful Dead, but they're right there. They're right there. They were right there. Yeah, that was my thought.
I just equate Fish with a lot of drugs. That's and Clyde I do not.
Yeah, but mostly good drugs. The good drugs.
We established the good drugs last week.
Yes.
You go for your third.
Okay, this is the best one. We've got Blues Traveler as the band with Orlando Miller. And that's strictly due to the size of the lead singer of Blues Traveler and the size of Orlando Miller, who was the number one most out of shape NBA player in the history of the sport.
Of all times.
Other than maybe 37-year-old Sean Kemp.
Oh yeah, but that was tough.
That was tough to watch.
John Popper is the lead singer of Blues Traveler.
Yeah, well he's the one with the vest that had the 17 different harmonicas in them.
Suck it in, rin tin tin and a wink wink wink.
Because you need 17 different harmonicas for a reason, and he has that reason. He hasn't really told anyone that reason, but he had that jacket. He had the harmonica jacket made to be Mr. Harmonica, and that is who he is.
My third is Luka Doncic. Is Soundgarden.
Ooh.
Because they are the most talented person in the league, as Soundgarden was arguably the most talented band of the 90s, and they're consistently great, but they haven't quite broken through as the best band or the best player in the league yet. Luka has never been considered the best player in the world, and Soundgarden I don't think was ever really the best band in the world, but they were always, like, in my opinion, on the precipice of being that best band.
So I think I like Soundgarden and I love Chris Cornell. You have a view of Soundgarden that I just wasn't aware of. I think that you view them that highly musically and all that. I just viewed them as like a second tier grunge band. That I mean, I'm not saying I was right or wrong. That was just always my impression of them. That they were not Nirvana or Pearl Jam. They were Soundgarden, and they were closer with Alice in Chains and those people in terms of basically everything.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I love them, and I think musically they were just as much just the best.
I just don't know their other. I guess I don't know a lot of their catalog other than their mainstream songs.
Yeah,
which I do like. So I'm not going to say anything bad. But on my Apple Music, I have a ton of Chris Cornell solo stuff because his solo stuff is literally beautiful.
What is your next one?
My next one is Shaq. Shaq is Metallica.
Yeah, I like this comparison a lot.
Because no one can fuck with Metallica. You can't say anything bad about Metallica. They're bigger than everyone. They're better than everyone. They're better than everybody. They are dominant. They are in your face. They are Shaq.
I really like that comparison. I think it goes well. Now, I can fuck with Metallica for Reload.
I love Metallica, man.
I can fuck with Shaq for his run with the Cavs. So
the thing about Metallica that's great is if you look at all their albums or the majority of them, you're going to have the hardcore metal songs for the hardcore metal fans. You're also going to have the slower songs for the people that want to hear, a little bit of instrumental. They literally offer something to everybody. And that even goes as far as their songs in general. Like, my favorite Metallica song is One. And One is essentially a ballad for the first 4 to 5 minutes, and it picks up into one of the most hardcore metal songs you'll ever hear at the end.
One is in. I love that. That's one of my favorite Metallica songs, easily.
Yeah, One's great, but it's just very cool how diverse they are, how talented they are, just dominant, and they've just been dominant for almost 45 years now. They've been going since the early 80s, brah.
I have 3 more that I want to get through really quickly. SGA is Radiohead because they're obviously great and nothing like we've seen before, and they win in different ways. We got a clunky game from SGA where he's doing his Eurostep and floaters. He's hitting threes. He's distributing. Radiohead crushes with the grunge. Then they crush with electronic style music, and they just keep redefining what they do best. And I think SGA is an example of that in the NBA.
I view Radiohead more like Lou Williams, kind of like a one-trick pony.
Yeah, well, one-trick pony is not how you would describe Radiohead.
Well, their only trick is being open to hipsters.
My next one, just ignoring that, my next one is Derrick Rose is the band live. They come on with a blaze, and right away they have a killer album, which is Throwing Copper. And they're the biggest band of the year in 1996, but they could not come up with a second album. Derrick Rose had an immediate first 3 years that was almost unprecedented in the NBA. Just came on like a phoenix, and then obviously due to injury couldn't sustain that level of explosiveness and greatness.
I think that's a really good call. Derrick Rose, as a young NBA player, was about as dynamic as you got. Really, his game was very similar to Russell Westbrook, if we're going to be honest. Probably just a year or two before, and then and Russell built on it. That knee injury took away his entire career. He was not a shooter. So if he didn't have that perfect explosion, we saw what happened. He became a functional NBA player, a functional bench player for years, but he was a shell of himself.
My last comp, NBA players to 90s bands. Karl Anthony Towns is Ace of Base. Hear me out.
Okay, why is that?
He consistently has hits, 20-point seasons, but you can't really take him seriously, okay? They're an homage to a previous era. Ace of Base, ABBA, Cat, Dirk, but they're not quite as good as the original and have not obtained the same accolades.
I think you're underestimating the global appeal of Ace of Base a little bit.
Oh. I thought you were going with Karl Anthony Towns. I'm underestimating Ace of Base.
You're underestimating. No. It's an insult to Ace of Base to compare them to Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not going to tell you that they're the greatest musicians or anything like that. but I'm sorry. The Sign is one of the best songs ever. It took over the entire world. And Carl Anthony's never had a peak in his career that even touches The Sign.
Well, he's the self-appointed best big man shooter of all times.
He might be the best big man 3-point shooter of all time. That may be, but he also plays like an idiot.
This is why because you can't take Ace of Base seriously, and you can't take Carl Anthony Towns seriously.
But you say you can't take Ace of Base seriously, but I'm pretty sure they're one of the most successful acts of the 90s.
I mean, they had Don't Turn Around and The Sign. What else did they have?
But I think in Europe they're beyond big.
Well, do you know how big Carl Anthony Towns is in Europe? He's huge, Matt.
Well,
huge. Jersey sales out the yin yang.
But he's really he's big. Europe loves Towns.
Europe loves Carl.
I just wish his name was Carl Towns.
Yeah.
I feel like he would be tougher if his name was Carl Towns.
Matt.
Carl Towns sounds like a Rocky villain.
Matt, in light of our conversation last week, where you said Aerosmith was your favorite '90s band, I have an irrefutable point that proves that Aerosmith is not a '90s band. Ready for this?
They were most famous in the '90s.
The way I know that Aerosmith is not a '90s band is because if you can't tell me their best album is from that decade without being called a poser, that band cannot be from said decade. And anyone who says that Aerosmith's best album is Get a Grip is a friggin' poser.
I do think it's their best album.
I think Toys in the Attic is really good.
Toys in the Attic's the only thing that comes close, in my opinion. I agree with Toys in the Attic. And I'm not saying the 70s run was insignificant. I'm just saying their fame in the 90s really makes them a 90s band because that's when they were kings. They create the music videos.
I'm telling you that diehard Aerosmith fans, if you go to them and tell them that your favorite Aerosmith album is Get a Grip, they're going to call you a poser. And that's why you cannot proclaim Aerosmith to be a 90s band. And that's a mic drop moment, my friend, because you cannot refute that.
I can refute that because I am an Aerosmith fan, and I love Get a Grip.
You're not a diehard. You're not a diehard.
I've seen them in concert many times. I'm a diehard. I'm a diehard.
Not a diehard. Not a diehard.
I'm such a diehard.
Irrefutable Aerosmith point. I think I just took that one, boys.
They're just all I know was I was 10 to 20 years old in the 90s, and they were the biggest band in the world to me. That's all I know.
It's fair, but you're a poser. Do you think we can get through these football stories quickly? It's already been an hour. It's just look aheads of what we're looking forward to in these. Like I got 4 games.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right, we got 4 NFL games that are chatter-worthy this week, and we want to talk about them. We are recording on Friday after the 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks.
They needed that.
So we got 4 games. Say again?
They needed that.
Yeah, they needed it bad. But we're going to talk about 4 games that we're interested in. First one being Jaguars-Bears. We could have excluded this from the list, but I think we're both invested in Caleb Williams and want to see how he does. Can Caleb Williams continue his ascent, or will Trevor Lawrence claw the Jaguars back to respectability?
I think Williams is going to have ups and downs. That's just the way it goes for rookie quarterbacks, not named Jalen Daniels and C.J. Stroud. I mean, the entire history of rookie quarterbacks have struggled. Peyton Manning, anyone you can name, really struggled as rookies. Yeah, Troy Aikman was terrible. They were 1-15 as a rookie. Like let's put it in perspective. He threw for 300 yards last week. He looked in control of the game. He's going to have good moments this year. Playing the Jags, it's a coin flip. He could have a great game. He could have a bad. None of this really matters. I just want to keep seeing improvement. I want to see steady play out of him because, God, he's fun to watch.
Caleb Williams will outshine T-Law as the better number 1 overall pick. That is my opinion. Next, Lions versus Cowboys. Can the Cowboys surprise the Lions' dominant O-line, or will they fall back to mediocrity? Matt?
I think they will fall back to mediocrity in a big way. I think the big, strong, aggressive Lions offensive line and the weak, injured, awful Cowboys run defense is going to be a big problem. Cowboys are literally held together with super glue right now. Like, they're barely hanging on. They are getting Deron Bland back, who was the guy who had all the pick sixes last year, if you remember. but the team just has too many answers for the Cowboys. I'd be very surprised if the Cowboys win the game, but Dak is good, but the Lions on paper and from what I've seen this year should really handle them.
I have a similar opinion. The Lions will crush the Cowboys, and Mike McCarthy will be on the next coach fired watch for Monday morning and all the talk shows.
I don't know if McCarthy's going to get fired in season.
They will be talking about it at the very least.
Okay. I mean,
next game.
He deserves it.
Next game, Bills versus Jets. This is obviously a popular game because it's for first place in the AFC East, and all the talk about the Jets with Saleh being fired and Aaron Rodgers looking like a really swell guy. Matt, can the Jets take control of first place in the division, or will Josh Allen show Rodgers who the reigning AFC East sheriff is?
This could not be a bigger game for the Bills. I mean, the Bills have to come out and be aggressive against the Jets. If the Jets just don't have a functional offense currently. They switch play callers. Nathaniel Hackett's still on staff, but not calling plays. So no, not really sure what the deal is there.
Right.
But new head coach. Historically there is a lot of evidence that teams do improve when a coach gets changed. I just think the Bills might be too good for them considering the way that the Jets have looked. I just think the Bills are going to score too many points. I just don't see the Jets scoring as many points as the Bills. I think it's that simple.
I think that the Bills are going to kill the Jets. They are a broken franchise, and while a lot of teams do benefit from the new coach bump, I think, again, the Jets franchise is broken as a whole, and the Bills need this win to really reestablish themselves in the significant, not even Super Bowl talk, but AFC Championship talk.
Yeah, the Bills need this game big time, and America needs this game for the Bills too, because we need to stop hearing about the goddamn Jets on TV.
Please.
For them and the Cowboys to be the talking point on every goddamn ESPN show when they are literally two of the most boring teams to watch in football is craziness.
Final game and most entertaining game, in my opinion, of the week. Ravens versus Commies. Can Jaden Daniels propel himself into the MVP race and the Commies into real contention for a Super Bowl, or will Lamar and the flock make their realistic playoff chances nevermore?
Ravens have a very, 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 very good history against rookie quarterbacks. It's very difficult for a rookie quarterback to go against a team like the Ravens or the Steelers or one of these teams that just have monster aggressive defensive that have been built for years. I don't know. This is the biggest test that he's had by far.
By far.
But at the end of the day, I think the Redskins' biggest problem is not going to be Daniels. It's going to be that defense that has been kind of hanging on by a thread as well. And Baltimore's offensive line and run game should really have their way with them. They just don't have much in terms of linebackers and secondary help. Their defensive line's okay, but I think the Ravens might absolutely destroy them.
I think the Ravens are going to come out on top, and it will be the first game of the year that Daniels looks mortal. That being said, it would not be surprising if a couple of drives they did go up and down the field on the Ravens defense and get a big play or two or have a couple of really nice drives. I think at the end of the day, the Ravens will come out victorious. Matt, did you know this is the most expensive game of the year on average ticket price? Average ticket price is like over $250, and it started at $90 at the beginning of the season.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I guess, with it being the local rivals, the stadiums are really only 35 minutes away from each other.
Right.
If there's no traffic, you can get there in 35 minutes easily. Yeah, I guess. Look, 4 or 5 games into a career, I'm not going to anoint him as the greatest thing ever. I still have my doubts and worries about him. Not as much physically and IQ-wise. I think he's got all that.
Yeah.
It's
health.
That health and that body type, I'm having a hard time, man. I'm having a hard time seeing.
I'm totally with you. Listen, they're not going to go 17-0. They're going to have losing games. He's not going to look great every single game. And I think this is a game where, he's going to look pretty good at times, but also the Ravens' defense and our defensive scheme is going to confuse him. He has not seen – the Browns' defense were without Myles Garrett. Now, granted, the Ravens' secondary is not great, but we have the best rushing defense in the league, and I think we're really going to put a hurting on him.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Robinson is probably the worst running back you could have to go up against the Ravens. The Ravens struggle a little bit with quicker running backs that can get to the outside, or can struggle. They're still good against that too. But the big plotting running backs have no chance, zero chance against the defensive line of the Ravens. You're talking 1,100 pounds of girth with Roquan Smith behind him. Now, the Ravens don't have a second linebacker. Simpson's okay against the pass. He doesn't really know where to be. So the defense has some holes. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but I can't wait to talk about that game next week. Good or bad, hopefully good. Matt, this has been a really fun, entertaining episode. I appreciate you joining me for so long. I know you got to get back to making fun of me for being a hipster, so I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, just go wash your overalls.
I'll double wash them.
Why do I keep saying overalls? I meant wash your suspenders. I'm so sorry. Sorry to everyone that wears. Can I just apologize to everyone that wears overalls? I've got nothing against you.
We are pro overall people on Monday Night Conversation.
Yeah, pro overall, absolutely. Only with one strap off, though.
Of course.
You have to have one strap off.
And preferably shorts. Overall shorts with one strap.
Overalls are so practical. I don't know why they stopped being a thing.
I agree. Go to our YouTube page, subscribe, like all the videos, download our podcasts, rate us 5 stars. Thank you guys for listening. Although this is late in the podcast, if you're still listening, we love you very much. Make comments. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Call Matt the bad guy from Revenge of the Nerds. And if you want.
And remember, just because Scott hates America doesn't mean I do.
And everyone, please take care of yourself and each other.
Bye.
Good app, Matt. I'm stopping it.